Hello and welcome back to Print 101 at Fullerton College. This is your instructor, Ben Hewitt, and we're picking up with the second half of our typeface lecture. Where we last left off, we were talking about the three phases of development of Roman style type. Remembering that Roman style does not mean it looks like ancient Rome, but rather it looks like the art book traditions of the early Renaissance in Italy. It also means it has uppercase and lowercase letters. The old style is the type of thing you'd see on the Declaration of Independence. This is the early lead type from about the Georgian period on back to the transition away from Gutenberg's style of black letter. Then you have the transitional stuff, which is turn of the century, which is between the 17 and 1800s when that started to be a thing. And they were done just for printing. The most famous and actually probably the best font you can use for a lot of things is Baskerville, designed by Mr. John Baskerville of London, who designed this typeface. Again, this is one that has been proven trustworthy and people can rely on information presented in it. If the font you use to set your words is like the accent or the voice you're speaking in, while you might have the sound of a clown if Comic Sans is speaking, if it's Baskerville, you're probably imagining David Attenborough sitting in a high back, wingback Victorian chair in a library full of books, explaining things very professionally to you. Or perhaps J.R.R. Tolkien reciting one of his poems. Anyways, it definitely has a classy bow tie kind of sense to it. And then you also have modern type. Modern being a little bit closer to the turn of the 19th to 20th century, around there. Later in the Industrial Revolution, as techniques were developed that you can make thinner, stronger metals, that's when you started getting the very thin hairlines and very thick stems. And the difference between super thick and super thin just screams modern. It's still in use today on things like fashion magazines. And it's very Parisian in its look because, well, they kind of came from Paris originally and were popularized there. And for the last 100 or 2 years, most fashion has come from Paris. At least they set the trends for the world for fashion and art. So fashion and art magazines will still use modern style French type like Didot and Bodoni to showcase the fact that they are in fact with the times, even though their font was designed in like the 1860s. Let's talk about script and cursive. This is one of those things that seems backward. It seems backwards to me. It's like when I was learning Spanish in high school, and to attend and to assist their meanings are flip-flopped between English and Spanish. Like the first Englishman to learn the Spanish words got them mixed up and we still speak with them wrong. Perhaps that's how it works. Anyways, script, the type is connected and it looks like you wrote it by your hand in what you would call in school cursive. Meanwhile, cursive is separated and to me looks like a basic calligraphic hand. But anyways, so cursive is separated letters that look handwritten and script is connected letters that look handwritten, not counting all the weird novelty ones. Okay, here we go. Welcome to Philadelphia. My aunt used to live across the street from this place, and this is the origin of the world famous Philly cheesesteak. This is Pat's, king of steaks. Very good sandwiches. If I'm ever able to travel again, I hope to pass through there and get another one. The lines are always huge, or they were before COVID. Who knows now? Anyways, their menu is very simple. They sell cheesesteaks, and there's really one option on the whole menu. You can get them with, or you can get them without. In their case, they're talking about onions, with or without onions. That's the only difference of a Pat's King of Steaks sandwich. I prefer wit, in case anybody's wondering, and planning on stopping by. Give me one wit. I prefer that. So, with onions. Now, the same sort of thing, with or without. That's how we define our basic categories of type. Traditional Roman style type is also known as serif type because it has serifs. Remember those little finishing strokes at the ends of the letters that date back to chiseling in stone? Yep, those are serifs. And if you have it without, it's known as a sans, which is the really mispronounced French word sans, which means without. So this is without, with or without serifs. It's a serif type or it's a sans serif type. They both have a time and a place for appropriate use. And there's been a lot of debate over the years over which one's better and easier to read, especially for learning readers. For a while, people would use things like Century School Book to teach kids. Think Dick and Jane books, See Spot Run and all that. Those were all done with very easy to distinguish serif types. But then at some point in a more modern movement in the 70s and early 80s, we decided that kids would learn better from a sans serif typeface because it's simpler. So that's why you see Sesame Street covered in Futura. So there are different ways things you can do to a typeface. You can have a font family that has multiple versions of itself available within. You can have it regular. You can have expanded where it's stretched out, condensed where it's squished together. You can see the circles used to be rounder, now they're a little bit more elliptical. And you can have extra condensed, it's even more done. You can also have them in different weights between thin, regular, and extreme. Actually, might be the next one. Nope, I didn't put that on there. Whoops. I may add some more to this video at the end, guys. Anyways, because there's also the question of style to your type, whether it is regular or bold or semi-bold or italic. There are other versions of things here, but this is more about your expanded and condensed stuff on this slide. And yes, this was something that became popular in the late 70s, early 80s, around the time they were using photographic type and film-based type strips to do their typesetting. If you ever find old National Geographics from that period on sale at a thrift store or something, you look for the advertisements in it, like the car ads, they'll all have their type like squished together, because being able to typeset photographically using film negatives to shoot your text was the first time you were able to do things like change the shape of the letters on demand, stretch them out, squish them together, because you could do that using lenses to distort them in the photographic process of making plates. Now it's become a standard part of what we do and exists digitally, although you can stretch them yourself in a design program. Oftentimes regular, expanded, and condensed are also available of a good font as variations built into the font family. We talked about this a little bit in measurement. Type sizes. Type is measured in points. And as a refresher, points have nothing to do with your computer. They don't mean anything in terms of pixels. Forget about it. It's not true. Points have to do with being 1/72nd of an inch high. 72 points makes 1 inch. They're inch based. And this allows us in the inch using American world, which is really just us, to divide an inch or a multiple inches page easily by 3. Because otherwise doing thirds and sixths and twelfths, which are necessary for columns on newspapers, is extremely difficult if all you have is a measurement system that likes to be divided in half over and over and over again. So there you go, points. And picas are 12 points. 12 points is 1 pica. Normal text is somewhere around between 8 and 10 points. 12 points is the limit of that and is pushing large text. When you get down towards anything above 14, it's display type, which means like headlines and chapter titles and book titles. And 72-point type, as we kind of alluded to, is going to be, you guessed it, 1 inch tall. There's also some letter adjustments, including a little bit more recommendations from your instructor. Don't tell your English teachers I said this. Anyways, so letter spacing. There are different ways of spacing out and spacing in characters on your page. You can allow extra space between letters and words, or you can take it away and make them really close together on letters and words. That's verbally what that sounds like. So letter spacing is you adjust the amount of space between each character. Word spacing, you have space between the words. Tracking allows you to squish the letters together to the point where they even overlap each other. And kerning is similar to this, but a little bit different. So tracking is you're taking an entire word or line of, an entire word or entire line of characters and squishing all of them together. Kerning, however, it actually predates modern typesetting and was something that was done back in the days of lead type. Kerning allows for some awkward spaces to be fixed. If you look at my image here, I'll even zoom in for you. You might say no way, but I say yes way, in fact, way twice. So with kerning, you can see that the bottom descender of that A, it's not really a descender because these are capitals, bad llama. Anyways, the part that sticks up on the W, the top and the bottom of the A, the base of that, are actually above each other. The A is, so to speak, tucked in underneath the W, which allows for more uniform character spacing. In the old days, if you really wanted to do this, and you would only do it for a few letters of a few important things, like a large run book there, or the title of your newspaper that you're going to do all the time, you would actually have to cut off the corners of the lead type. Because remember, the lead type, the words in the middle of a big rectangular square of metal and the letters in the center of that. So if you wanted to make those tuck together, you would have to physically cut off part of the type, and that was called kerning. Down below, the second way on the bottom here, with my handy dandy dotted line, shows you what it looks like when kerning's turned off on your computer. In InDesign, kerning is automatically turned on by default unless you disable it. And if you disable it, you'll notice that the W and the A, the top of the W ends before the bottom of the A begins, in a nod to how it would work if you were actually using lead type and not taking the time to chisel those apart and fit them together better. If you are making historical recreations of period text done from a time that lead type was used for printing, you want to turn off kerning except for some major headlines because they wouldn't have kerned body text. It's too much work to sit there and somewhere in the middle of page 17 of a book, chop down some letters so that they fit better together. They wouldn't do that. They would just use the letters as cast. So if you're making your own homemade version of the Declaration of Independence to tease Nicolas Cage with, then yeah, you want to not kern. Anyways, this is about the end here. Let me pause for a second. All right, I promised to add it at the end, and here we go. Type styles. I realized I didn't have this in my file ahead of time, but we can see it live now instead. So there's different types of common variations within a type family of a particular typeface. So regular, I'm probably not going to need to change, am I? If I take semi-bold, I can actually make this semi-bold, which is a little bit heavier than regular. It's a little bit bigger here. There you go. Bold, I can just go ahead and make bold. Bold is more bold. You have regular, semi, and bold. Then you have italic, which is slanted. I do love me some italic. Oop, should be an E in there, semi. Semi-bold italic and bold italic. These are common for well-made typefaces. The one you got for free on the internet may not have all these options, but anyone that's been paid for, either by you or by Adobe, who includes it in their product line, should contain a good amount of variations. Anyways, thank you for muddling through type with me. I hope you guys have enjoyed this and hope it's been useful to you.